Hello, everybody from Australia. Here in Australia, it's very sunny here today. So I don't know where you are in the world, but we've got sunshine. In today's podcast, I want to talk about not letting our differences separate us. And differences can make a big difference, sorry about that, in our relationships, because if we're different, it can be a great thing, but it can also kind of start separating us. And I just want you to be aware of that and to see if you can shore up the sides a little bit in your relationship and not let the differences out compete the things that are good that are between you and the things that you have similar feelings about or values. They say that opposites attract, and that can happen also, but those actual opposites can become problematic in a relationship because you've got one partner who's an introvert and they want to stay home and they don't want to go to the party, and you've got the other partner who's an extrovert who really wants to go to the party. And that's where you've got to meet in the middle and compromise. With differences, there can be two sorts of differences. There can be the negotiable difference, that you negotiate through it. So, for example, the one person wants to go to the party, the other person doesn't. The introvert might ask, do you mind if I stay home? And then the extrovert says, no, that's fine. The introvert says, I'll come for a while, but I'll take my own car, and if I want to go home early, is that fine? And the extrovert says, yes, that's fine. And that's the way you've compromised. You found a middle place to let one person have their difference and you have your difference and meet sort of in the middle. The other difference is non-negotiable, and these are the ones that you might have more trouble with. These are the ones you will find it hard to come and have some peace around and some balance in your relationship. The best way is to talk about it, of course. That's always the best way to communicate your differences and how you have a different point of view or a different outlook on something. And then you have to find out what you're going to do about it. If it's a personal feeling that you have, perhaps you are anti-abortion and your partner is pro-choice, then that's maybe a difference that will be fine unless you get to a situation where you become pregnant. Then it becomes a really difficult choice for you both to make because you're on different sides. And in those situations, you really need to sit down and have a big talk. I think the person who it's affecting the most probably should get sway and sort of their own way, because they're going to be the one who's most affected by the choices that you make. You might also have a difference. For example, maybe you smoke and your partner doesn't smoke and they want you to stop smoking, but you're still smoking. And then that becomes like a non-negotiable area, and that difference can really get you in trouble because a lot of resentment can be built up, and also anger and also fear in the partner who's worried that you're going to die from cancer or heart disease or something because of the smoking. These ones are much more tricky to do, and I think you really need to sit down and see if you can find a place that you can make it work. For example, if you can't stop smoking yet, you can maybe cut down to alleviate some of the stress that your partner is having around that situation. Or in the case of the abortion, if you're the person who's pregnant and you cannot have an abortion because you just can't do it, then maybe you've really got to talk about it, because having that extra child will be maybe seen as a burden to your partner. However, you won't be able to cope with having an abortion, and so that becomes something that maybe the person who's pregnant gets to make the choice. These are very, very difficult life choices, but you have to do the one that you think is best for your relationship. And if you think of the smoking one, it's better for your relationship that you try and work on it, or try and work towards it. There will also be areas where you will not have any negotiation field at all. There won't be a touch of it. You might be politically different. A person might be more liberal and you're more, we call it in Australia, Labor. And so in those situations, you'll stick by your political views and you will never change, and you just accept that. And you might have your little arguments and your political fights, but then you go and have a cup of tea together or go and have Chinese. It's something you just know it will never be fixed. My husband was really anti-smoking, like so anti-smoking, and I didn't really have such a strong view. I didn't smoke, but I didn't have a strong view about it. I thought people can smoke if they want or not, it's their body. So we just decided never to have that conversation after a while, because it never went anywhere good. Because I felt people's body was their choice, and he was very anti it, and he was very judgmental about it, and so it wasn't worth talking about anymore. So we just stopped talking about it. That's how you can also do it. You just become a subject that you can't really talk about because it's going to separate you, and you already have a separation because you have a different view or point of view or value system. And some of these views are just personal. They don't really have to come into the relationship. They can be just your personal views on things. Other views will affect the relationship more. For example, pro-choice or the abortion one, that will really affect your relationship. But how you view smoking, particularly in our case when neither of us smoked, wasn't really going to affect it. These differences make us both very interesting, but we also need to keep them in a sense because they are who we are. You want to retain your individual relationship within your relationship. So you want to be an individual as well with your own points of view and not have to back down and, just do as you're told, I suppose, or suck it up, as they say here. So just stick to your guns with some of the things that you do believe in, but also agree not to bring them to the fore all the time, because you will not be able to agree on these things, and they will actually not be good for your relationship long term. If you don't like some family members, for example, and they really like them, you just agree that you don't like Uncle Bob, and that's it. And you're never going to like Uncle Bob, and it doesn't matter what he says about Uncle Bob, you don't like him, and you're never going to. So you disagree, but you still go to the functions where Uncle Bob is. You just make sure you steer clear of him because you don't like him. And that's okay, because it won't actually separate you. You are two different people. You have come out of different environments. You have different genetic blueprints. You are also formed by all your experiences, which will be different to your partner's. Therefore, it's actually just the outcome that you will be different. But how you deal with the differences is actually how you help your relationship. So in my opinion, you'll have the negotiable ones. You can meet in the middle. Then you'll have the negotiable ones where one person does really get their own way a little bit more because it's going to impact so dramatically on them, and then they can't actually not have this happen because it'll now affect the relationship and they'll get resentful, and you've got to look at that and blame the other partner, and you've got to work out what's more important, them doing it their way or spending the rest of your relationship blaming you because you wouldn't let them. You've got to think about that one. And then the last one, which is non-negotiable. You'll never ever want to vote for the Labor Party or something. It's never going to change. If you can decide which one is which, it's good, because once you can decide on the three parts, then you decide which ones you're going to kind of meet in the middle, which ones you're going to give in to, in a sense, for the relationship peace and harmony, and then which are the ones you're just going to agree to disagree. And that's really a kind of a good thing. We used to do that. We'll just agree to disagree, and we don't bring it up and we don't talk about it because we both know, and we're not going to go anywhere with it. And you'll just end up arguing really for nothing. It's kind of futile. It doesn't have any good outcome, the third one, when it's completely non-negotiable, and it will just make for bad feeling. And the other thing is too, it's kind of a respect for the other person, that you respect that you have a different point of view and you don't try and control or convince them or coerce them. You just accept it. It's good to be different. It really is. And our differences can actually add to the relationship. So a person who's more adventurous and more impulsive will be good for a person who's a bit stick in the mud and doesn't want to try. They can bring them out of their cave. And then a person who's a bit reckless and doesn't think it through, it's good that they're with someone who is more careful and cautious because they moderate them. So some of the differences can actually be a good thing. And the other thing you want to think about is your long-term relationship. If you want to stay with this person for a long time, you just don't want to be fighting. You don't want to be fighting about crap that you can't really change. And so you find a way where you're not fighting, that you negotiate a peace or a treaty or a different outcome. And that will be much better for your long-term relationship because there'll be more harmony. And as I've spoken in one of other podcasts, there's a triangle of love. You can look that one up. And that's harmony, love, and chemistry. And when you start having differences, it'll end up affecting the harmony, which then fact affects the love, because you can get bad feelings towards each other because you're fighting. And then obviously that will affect the chemistry, because when you're fighting, you don't really want to feel that way about me. You don't want to be close. So it can have negative outcomes if you don't deal with it. You will know which are the ones you can negotiate, and I want you to have a think about that. What areas are the ones you can? Then you'll know the ones where the non-negotiation is for you. And you might even have it that your partner will want to negotiate something with you, but you just can't. You just can't meet in the middle somewhere with it. For example, if now you've decided to become a vegan and they don't want to be a vegan, they want to just eat the meat diet as well. So you can't really meet in the middle with that one. The vegan will cook their own meals and they will be vegan, and then the people who want to eat the meat will have to buy, or you can provide the meat for them. If you're a good vegan, you can do that. Not all vegans are so comfortable with that, I think, but some people are. I've known of vegetarians who cooked meat every night for their family and remained vegetarian, and there was no conflict around that. Look at this one, work out which one's which. Don't let your differences separate you. Don't let it mess up your relation, because it's just a point of view. That's all it is. And to be honest, I'm a bit older now, and you change your point of view. What you thought in your 20s, 30s, 40s will be different in your 50s, 60s, 70s. In some ways, I think we mellow. Some people get more black and white, and then some people mellow. You have to decide which one you want to be, and I think mellowing is probably a better thing, because your relationships with everyone will be more harmonious if you're more mellow as you get older and more open and giving to other people. And that also means, love also means allowing people to be who they are and still loving them in unconditional love. I'm hoping that you can start thinking about these things for yourself, the differences, and then I'm hoping you can talk to your partner and work out which are which, and then have those 3 areas and navigate around them so they actually add to your relationship. And you know, when somebody has something which is a difference, but they come to the party for you and they, I suppose, let you have it your way because you're going to be the one who doesn't cope very well with it, or you're going to suffer if that happens a certain way. That's a sort of form of love, and that actually, that difference, when you support the other person in their difference, actually makes for more love. It makes for a stronger relationship, because it's not then about what your differences are. It's about making the other person happy and to make them feel safe and to make them feel comfortable. So I'm wishing you well, and I think this one will really help your relationship, and I'm sending you lots of love and lots of healing.